Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I thought that I would take some time to give you a few stories about my experiences falling off horses. I will say that in all these instances I have been blessed that I have not been injured severely. I have not broken any bones, praise the Lord. That is the only reason that I haven't, is because He has protected me through what should have been broken ankles, broken hips, broken legs, etc. So, as far as I remember, these are like the falls, like all of my falls. There are probably some that I just don't remember. I mean, I tried to sit down and think like which ones I'd had, but some of them just kind of slip your brain after a while. So the first one I'm going to talk about was really early on, and it was kind of funny. The first barn that I boarded Buddy at, this was probably like 9 years ago when this happened. So whenever I would go out in the pasture, it was downhill, all the way down. And I would go and get Buddy, and I would tie his halter like reins, and I would ride him bareback all the way back up. I had gotten to this point where I was confident enough with him and with my riding that I could just ride bareback all the way back up and I'll be fine. So one good thing was out in the field at this point there were a few logs near like the wooded area that I could kind of like use as a step-up stool. So I would walk him over there and he would stand right there and I would just hop on him. So no big deal, right? No big deal. So I started out as I normally do. I got Buddy and I walked him over to this log and I was going to jump right on him, and I have never had any problems with him like walking off, or he usually just stood right there, except for this one particular instance. And I just remember that I threw my leg over him, and as I was getting ready to kind of like set myself on him, he started walking away, and I was not ready for that. And when he did, I kind of like, that instinctive like grab the rein, which turns them in a circle, and he kind of was like, where am I going? And then I kind of accidentally like kicked his side, and he was like, oh, and so then he starts kind of trotting, and I plopped right off, right on my butt. Whew, yeah. And so that was lovely, lovely indeed. My ankle was swollen for an entire week. I had to wear tennis shoes to church that next day because I couldn't wear like high heels. And back then my parents were like, you have to wear like nice shoes to church, no tennis shoes, and you can't wear jeans. Well, the swollen ankle gave me an excuse to do both, so that was great. So if you want to get an idea of what I and Buddy looked like and what that whole situation looked like, I'm going to enter a clip here. This is me when I was an infant. Not really. I was just 12, 13, living my best life. The haircut, Mom decided to do it, and instead of cutting it to my shoulders, she cut it to my jawbones, and I cried. It's the only time I've ever cried getting a haircut, but yeah. Alright, so the second time, well, it's not technically the second time. These are kind of in a mixed up chronological order. I'm going to tell you all from each barn. Yeah. So, anyway, so the next one I want to talk about from the same barn is when I was just having a normal, regular lesson, just going around the arena. Nothing crazy going on. In fact, Buddy was just kind of walking at a very slow pace. He normally did. And for some reason, something spooked the living daylights out of him. And I'm talking about, this wasn't like he perked his head up and you knew something was going to happen. This was like his head was low, lazy, like dragging his feet kind of walk to, he's walking like this, and the like bucking bronco just straight up into the air like this. I mean, I couldn't obviously see myself, but from the way that it felt, what I imagined it looked like was he was walking like this and then just went whoop like that, straight up into the air. Well, me, I was totally relaxed, not expecting anything crazy to happen, and I literally flipped like straight over. And when I flipped, I landed like this, just like flat on my back. And I just remember laying there going, oh, it just happened. Like I'm laying in the arena dirt thinking, am I okay? So as I began to realize that I was laying on the ground, I started looking around, and you know, sometimes you have I had bumper spurs because Buddy needed a little motivation to just walk at a normal like pace. I'm talking about like I would have to like bump him and he'd be like, oh, okay, I guess I can walk at a normal pace. And the bumper spurs, they're like rounded off, whatever. Anyway, that's not the point. The point is they were like slip-on bumper spurs, so they didn't have straps. They just like, you know, they slipped on. And as I lift my head and look towards my feet, I can see one of the spurs has like flown to the other side of the arena. I'm not even exaggerating. Like, I'm talking about like width-wise, not length-wise, width-wise, like across the arena. And I'm like, what the heck? So my trainer at the time was like, okay, are you okay? And I was like, I think so. And she was like, okay, I want you to slowly turn over onto your belly and try to get on your hands and knees. And so I remember it didn't really hurt. Nothing like really hurt at that moment. I was more just in like shock. So I managed to get myself flipped over, and I just remember Buddy was just standing like, had probably moved maybe a yard from where he had like thrown me off, and was just standing there just kind of chill, not doing anything. And I just remember getting on my hands and knees, and I was looking down like at the dirt, and I was just thinking, okay, so nothing's wrong with me. I'm like, I feel fine. And then all of a sudden tears, like, and I wasn't sad and I wasn't upset and I wasn't hurting. So I just would imagine that it was the shock of just the very suddenness of it, just tears just pouring down my eyes. And I just remember thinking, why am I crying? Like, I feel totally fine. Like, there's nothing wrong. I'm just kind of like, what just happened? And so I then stood up, walked over to Buddy, made sure he was okay, and went and got my bumper spur and I got back on and finished the rest of my lesson. And if you want to see what the arena looks like, here it is. And if you're looking at the picture, it is if you see the blue barrel to the, I believe this side. Yeah, so the left side. It was actually on that side. There's like a light post right there, and that is what he walked by when he spooked. And the spur flew from that corner like over towards where the barrel on the right is. Yeah, that was exciting. Okay, so the next one I'm going to talk about is this one's actually kind of funny. It's kind of embarrassing too, but it's pretty funny. So a long time ago when I was at that barn, you know, this was back the 9, 8, 10 years ago. Yeah. And I used to ride Buddy. I had 2 other friends, and we were basically like our own saddle club. We were the 3 amigos, you know. We each had a horse, and we each loved to ride, and we loved to do all kinds of fun things with riding, so it was just perfect. So a lot of times we would go and like trail ride in the pasture because there wasn't really a place like near us for trail riding. And it was a big pasture, and there was like some sort of forest like in the pasture. It's like just a little wooded area. But down in between the cow pasture and the gelding pasture, there was like this little small, almost like a miniature pasture, like almost like a run. And it was just big enough, like, you know, that we could all get in there and run from one side to the other. Well, there was this really big like divot, and we didn't normally run through. It was more like a ditch. It was kind of a shallow ditch, but it was like wide. And so whenever it would rain a lot, it would actually flood up like a small little like pond that was shallow enough like we could walk through. Anyways, so the last time, so Anyways, so us being the adventurous and wanting to experience the entirety of owning horses and being able to do things our own with our horses, we decided that we were going to run across this little field, and we would go through the water. Well, first we walked through. Like, we got our horses used to it first, and once we realized that they were cool with it, we started getting them to go faster and just like go through the water. And I'm telling you, it was so much fun. Like, all I remember was how much fun it was. That is until the last time that we ran through. So the last time we ran through, we got to the other side, and all of a sudden I was like, oh my gosh, this saddle, like, So we get to the other side, and we all stop at the gate. And it was so funny because this, at the time, was before I had Rio, and actually my friend, who was one of the three, was the person who I bought Rio from, and at the time, this is when she still owned him. And so he actually had stopped beside Buddy and kind of turned his butt towards us. And when he did, my saddle, I literally like slid to the side like this. As I am sliding off of my horse, thinking, oh crap, I didn't tighten my saddle enough, I reach out my hand and actually touch Rio's butt. It gave me just enough support that I was able to pull my right foot out of my stirrup, step onto the ground, and step off my horse. I mean, it was the weirdest thing. I have never experienced such a smooth dismount before. It was pretty crazy. And then Rio just walked off, and my other friend, and her horse were off in the other direction. And I was standing there. Buddy was just chilling, kind of stopped, and his saddle was hanging down from his side. And so it was basically a combination of me not tightening my saddle enough that day and running through water several times, which then made what could have kept me the whole ride upright to sliding off the side as I, just my little stringy right there. Whew. So here are a few clips of us. We like to do all kinds of crazy stuff. As you can see, this is us jumping over a fallen log in the woods, and we just had a blast. It was a great time, and I would say that it was just a great time in my life, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. All right, so the next story, same barn. This is the last story from this particular barn. This is probably where I got the most experience as far as like I really like dove in and did a whole bunch of stuff. This is the first barn. So my friend who owned Rio before, she was always at the barn with me. Like during the summertime, all three of us would get together a lot. But out of all three of us, me and her hung out the most as far as being at the barn all the time. And so I just remember I lived 5 minutes from that barn, and I was up there almost every single day during every summer. I mean, I was up there a lot during the school year too, but I mean, I was literally up there like all day long during the summer. So anyway, we would actually go out into the cow pasture and past the cow pasture, and we had discovered that there were some woods that we could actually travel in as well for kind of like our own mini trail rides, as you would put it. We discovered these and decided that we would explore them, and we have several times. Several things have happened. Not falls, but we'll save those for a different story time. Anyway, so this particular time, we were walking up the cow pasture, like right by the cow pasture, and we were going to go further up before we went actually into the woods. And so we're walking by, and all of a sudden, Buddy just starts like looking into the bush, and you know that look horses get when they're just like, and you're like, oh crap. Like, you can just tell something is getting ready to happen. And I thought, okay, it's okay, Buddy. I'm telling him, like, it's okay. Like, there's nothing over there. And I kind of was, like, looking back at my friend, like, maybe we should, like, turn around. And then, all of a sudden, I'm talking about from 0 to 60, 0 to 100, all of a sudden, he just jumps to the right. And when he does, he takes his back right leg and he sticks it into the wire of the electric fence. And then pulls his leg back. And instead of, just pulling it out, the wire from the electric fence wrapped around his back leg. Okay, I'm not even making this up. I don't even know how this happened like it did. I mean, it was just crazy. Wraps around his leg, and then he starts bucking, going crazy, because, that wire is just, like, freaking him out. And so finally he gets loose from the wire, and then he just starts taking off. Well, he spooks my friend's horse, Rio. He spooks Rio, and so Rio's taking off, and he's bucking, going crazy, and Buddy is just bolting in that direction. And all of a sudden, I just was like, I'm gonna fall off. And all I did was I just and rolled off. Rolled right off, fell right on my back. And Buddy ran about 6 yards away and then stopped and was like, like, did you see that? That thing just attacked me. Yeah, well, that thing that attacked him, my trainer's husband had just put up that fence. Yeah. And it did cut Buddy's leg a little bit, but nothing major. He wasn't even lame from it. It was just very, like, superficial. And this is a picture of me and Amberly. We were riding in the rain without any tack except for our bridles. And that's just the kind of stuff we did. We just enjoyed doing fun, crazy stuff. And yeah, we were crazy back then. All right, so I just remembered this. This is not really like a fall, but I mean, I guess technically Buddy was involved and I did fall. So back a long time ago at the same barn, whenever I would get done riding for the day or doing whatever I was doing, I couldn't drive, so I had to wait for my mother or my father to come and pick me up. So usually what I would do is I would take Buddy and he would be brushed, he would be ready to go back out in the pasture, but I wasn't really ready to let him go, and so I would sit down and I would watch the next lesson, and Buddy would just eat grass beside me right outside the arena, and we'd just hang. Well, on this particular day, it was the same deal, but today I had a Coca-Cola. And I was so excited. I was like, I got a Coke. I'm going to sit here. I'm going to open up this Coke. I'm going to drink this Coke. And I'm going to watch this lesson. It'd be great. Whatever. So, sometimes you just don't know what your horse is going to spook at. You know what I mean? Like, you think this is totally fine. There's no reason that this horse should spook at this. So I just sit down and I open my Coke can. And apparently that just triggered him for some reason, because he thought that somebody was shooting at him. And he literally jumped up, and I was holding onto the lead rope, of course. And because I was holding onto the lead rope and I was sitting in a plastic lawn chair, like one of those like picnic plastic, the white ones, the rounded back. Anyway, you don't know what I'm talking about. I'm sitting in that, and he just jumps backwards. And when he does, I'm holding on to him, and I literally like fall all the way back, like onto my back. And the Coke just spills all over me. My trainer at the time she's hilarious and loved her to death. She lives in another state now, so she's no longer my trainer, but she's hilarious. She has the loudest laugh. She's very loud, and she's very like blunt and outgoing, and she's hilarious. Very country lady. Love her. And all of a sudden, as I'm laying on the ground, I can hear her laughing at me. Just like, are you okay? Like, just dying laughing. And I get up, and Buddy's just standing there looking at me, thinking, that Coke can just tried to attack me, Mom. Why did you let it try to attack me? As I have syrupy drink all over my chest and my clothes. It was great. And here is a picture of the general area I was in. You can see Buddy standing there. Like, I literally, the lawn chair was like right beside him, and I was sitting in the grass, and yeah. It was great. Everybody who was there saw me. And yes, all of these video clips and pictures are totes low quality. This was literally 10 years ago. 8 or 10 years ago. 8 to 10 years ago. So, forgive me. I had a flip phone for some of these pictures and not the best camera at the time. Thank you. So the last fall that I am going to discuss is on Rio. This was my most recent fall. This was actually last year. Last year? No. Year before last. Was it? Yes, because it was in the fall. I don't know. It's really hard to keep track because I have now had him for 2 years, 2.5 years. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, anyway. It's been within the past 2 years. We're going to go with that, okay? And it was not at the barn I am currently at. It was the barn after the first barn, but before the barn I am now at. Yes. Yes, so this was the second barn. I've had 3 barns. This is the second barn. Okay. So, I started taking lessons again with a new trainer, and I was learning to ride Rio because Buddy was getting older and he was starting to have some arthritic issues that we did not realize that was the problem yet. Rio, in the past, knew how to jump. So I was learning my Western on him, but I was also like, I want to learn how to jump. Like, I've done some very informal jumping, like, on my own. Like, I can figure this out. I'm going to jump in a Western saddle on Buddy. That's what we were doing. You know, those kind of things. Anyway, so I was learning to jump Rio, and it had been great. This was like our 4th lesson, something like that. And I was really enjoying it. I did not realize how much I would enjoy jumping. And Rio was great. He was great. You know, he had his moments, but he was great. So this particular day, it had rained like the day before. Yeah, the day before. But it was nice this particular day, so we were just going to go with it. And we had gone through the whole lesson, like, just everything was perfect. And so at the very end of the lesson, it definitely was the end after this, but at the very end of the lesson, we're going to go through one more jump. And so Rio and I, we've been doing this. I'm like, okay, let's do it again. Come on, we're going to do it. So we're cantering, you know, and I'm like, yes. All right, counting those strides, you know, I'm going to do it right this time. And so we get to the last stride right before he's going to actually lift off. And so I am in my position, you know, I'm going to jump over the fence. Oh, yeah, that was my first mistake. So as I lift to prepare for this jump, this inevitable jump, Rio slips instead of taking off. And so instead of going up, he goes down and actually slipped in the mud. And when he did, I completely just like that. But it was like a roll. And the first thing I hit was the back of my head. This is why if I'm doing anything dangerous, I wear a helmet. As you can see in all of the pictures, in all the video clips, I was wearing a helmet. I don't always wear a helmet, but I will say that if I'm going to do something that I'm either not good at or could be potentially dangerous, like jumping, I'm going to wear a helmet. And this is one of the reasons. So I'm laying there, and I've literally, I felt like a rag doll because, my head hit, and then I just flopped over. And so I'm laying there, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what just happened? And the first thing I thought, mainly because my trainer had told me that a long time ago she was in a jumping accident that actually broke her hip, and so that just freaked me out. So the first thing I'm thinking is I've either dislocated my hips or I've broken them. Now, it didn't hurt like I had. It hurt, but what I would expect from a break or a dislocating was not what I was getting. So, I lay there for a second. Now, some backstory. Buddy would get very jealous if I rode Rio and did not include him. And so what would happen was when I started taking lessons, I would bring Buddy into the arena with me because it was a grass arena. Yeah. Part of the problem, part of the reason that I fell, because it was mud. But anyway, it was fine whenever it was dry. But one good thing about it was Buddy would just graze in the middle of the arena. He would stay out of my way, and Rio and I would do our thing, and Buddy was totally content. If I left Buddy out in the pasture, which was literally like the fence of the arena shared the pasture, he would stand at the fence and just be mad at me. And you could tell, like I could tell, he was jealous. He would get upset. And so he just wanted to be included. So we started including him. And it was great. It was perfect. They both got along great. They're like this. They are best friends. Buddy and Rio are. They have been for probably 10 years. Anyway, so I'm laying on the ground and Rio had just kind of recovered. And the first thing I see is Buddy walking over to check on me, making sure that everything was all right. And then Rio comes and checks on me. And they're both standing there. They literally both walk up to me as I finally get up, because I was like, if I can get up, that means I'm okay. So I get up immediately because as soon as I felt like I could. And they're both up to me like, oh, are you okay? And I'm just like, oh, I'm fine. And so I start walking around, and then Buddy goes back to grazing because he's like, she's fine. So I'm just going to go eat grass because that's what I care about. Poor Rio, he's just like watching me, waiting for me to be like mad, I'm sure. But, or something, I don't know. He wasn't like scared, like, oh, she's going to hit me, you know. He was more just like, you know. But he was fine. I checked on him as soon as I realized I could walk, because I was like, okay, I can walk now. Let's make sure my horse can walk. So I go check on him. He's fine. I mean, and I look down. I can actually see where he had slipped. And he had slipped and he'd caught himself, and when he did, I was just off balance, and that's why I fell. Anyway, so I just walk around. And here's a little clip from one of my lessons, very similar, where you can see I'm cantering Rio in an English saddle. And I will say that this is before I started losing weight. And as you can see, I look like a cow riding a horse. Yes, it looks horrible. I'm sorry. I've lost almost 30 pounds since then. Thank you. Anyway, so everything was good. And I was sore the next day for sure. Like, actually it was funny because I wasn't really that sore the next day. It was the day after. So 2 days after I fell off is when I got really sore. That was really like wonky. That was weird. But I ended up being okay. Nothing was broken, nothing was bruised, and I'm still fine. Anyway, that's the last story I have for now. I mean, I can't at this moment remember any others, but I have so many stories of riding that there's probably one in there that I just don't remember at this moment. But anyway, so just remember, if you're going to do something crazy, wear a helmet. It's a good idea. I mean, really, I'm not going to tell you that you have to wear a helmet, and I'm not going to tell you not to wear a helmet, but I would say that wearing a helmet is a smart idea. It just is. It's just a very smart idea. Anyway, thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, share, comment. I would love to hear if y'all have any crazy falls, riding stories that you were seriously protected from horrible, horrible damage. I mean, obviously, not all damage is avoidable, but the worst kinds, you know what I mean. Anyway, guys, thanks again, and don't forget, be brave, be brave. I'll see you in the next video, guys. But that's it. Thanks for watching. I will hope you would like and subscribe this video. And so a lot of times what would happen was I couldn't drive at the time. And whenever I would get done being with the horses, hanging out, all that, I would take Buddy and I would let him eat grass just like right outside the arena, and I would sit down. So whenever I was done for the day, and oh my gosh, every time, what are they doing up there? Every time I turn this thing on, then I turn it off, and nobody's making any noise, and now nobody's making